All right, just taking a quick look at these new ALLWEI power stations. So, ALLWEI's kind of been around for a while. It's kind of been a brand that you would consider more like an off brand or a budget brand. But they've actually been selling pretty good. I mean, take a look at the sales ranking right here. So this isn't just like some obscure brand. But yes, a lot of their first power stations were kind of like this. This is kind of like what they started out with. This is kind of like their first attempt, right? But actually, what they've done now is they've kind of redesigned their two largest units, like from the ground up, and that's this unit here that we're going to be taking a look at here today. This is the 2,000 watt version, and then they also have a new 1,200 watt version with basically the same design. Now the specs aren't quite as good, and not just the battery capacity, but we'll talk about that more in a second. Because I think this is the unit you're going to be most interested in, basically because of because of the value, right? So this is actually 2,100 watt hour, a little over 2,100 watt hours, and look at this price. Like this is even without the coupon, you got $100 coupon there as well. This is like a crazy good value. So we're talking like less than 50 cents per watt hour, which is kind of unheard of. This isn't using LiFePO batteries, right? Like we see with a lot of newer power stations. But the big benefit of a unit like this, especially this size, 2,100 watt hours, using NMC batteries. Look at this, 37 pounds. Like guess what? If you want to get this kind of capacity with a unit that has LFP or LiFePO batteries, like you're going to be looking more around 60 pounds, right? So this is the big appeal, and I think if you want to have a decent amount of capacity like this in a unit that's truly portable, you're not going to be breaking your back, right? This is where NMC batteries really have an advantage. All right, let's just jump right in and take a look at the design, because this is actually excellent design as far as like the fundamentals of like power station design. In fact, like if you're a company like looking to design a new power station, like start with this, like use this design as like your base, right? Because this thing checks off all the boxes, right? When I talk about design of these units, this thing is actually just perfect. So as I mentioned, this is kind of like an all new design from ALLWEI, and obviously they did take some influence from their older units, right? They didn't abandon everything, but they kind of just looked and said, how can we make it better? What would be like the best design to have, right? And they did that. So number one, we got all the ports on the front side. That's just going to make it a lot easier to use, and including the input ports, so for charging and stuff like that. So not just the output ports, but output and input right on the front, right? So number two is we got a flat top, right? Okay, so we check that off. And then number three, these handles. And these handles are just kind of the best design you can possibly have for these power stations, because you're going to have a fixed handle, right? I mean, these units do have some weight to them. So I always like to see a fixed handle over a folding handle, because it's just going to be a bit more solid. It's just going to be a bit easier to carry, right? And then you've also got, it's tucked into the unit, right? It doesn't, stick out like, some companies, they have the handle stick out like this, like EcoFlow, right? But then guess what? This is all going to be wasted space if you're trying to tuck it into a small area. Now, another thing I like to look for, do they have separate switches for all of the sections, right? And indeed they do. They have, AC, USB, and DC all on separate circuits, separate switches. That's going to be better for efficiency, so you're not going to be wasting power if you're not using one of those sections, right? And then they've also got the display on and off button. So that's something that a lot of power stations still miss, right? Just give a dedicated button to turn the display on and off. If you want it on, you turn it on. If you want it off, you press it, turn it off. There's no need to have some kind of like automatic shut off feature, like, it goes off after 30 seconds and then you got to press it, turn it back on. It's like, no, if you want it on, turn it on. If you want it off, turn it off. It's pretty simple. I still don't understand why so many companies get that wrong. And then we got dual input on this thing, right? So not just not just one input. These are dual MPPT inputs. And what's really nice about that is you can combine different charging methods together. Right? Like it's not just, you're not just stuck to one charging method. You could do, as they actually illustrate here, You know, you could charge from solar and from the wall outlet at the same time, right? One going into one input, you know, the other going into the other input. And or you can do like you could double it up, right? You could have, you know, solar going into both inputs if you really wanted to get crazy with solar. Or what a lot of people like to do, you know, like people who are traveling a lot or doing the van life thing. Maybe you've got some solar panels on the roof, right, of your vehicle, and then you're driving, so you might as well, you know, charge off the running engine at the same time, right? Well, you can actually have, you know, the car charging one input and then the solar, you know, charging the other input at the same time. All right, just to get back to the design real quick, we do have an LED light on the side of the unit, and this is just real good design as well because, you know, I hate when power stations put this light on the front of the unit. Like you would think that would be a good idea and kind of help you see what you're doing and using these ports and stuff like that. But actually, you know, if you're in a dark room or something and the power's out and the light is on the front, you know, it'll actually blind you and make it like more difficult. And you kind of have to squint when you look when you're trying to, you know, plug stuff into the power station and stuff like that. So having it on the side, you're gonna, you know, it's still gonna light up the area around the power station, and you're gonna be able to see what you're doing without being blinded. So that's good stuff, and it is low, medium, and high settings they have for that light as well. All right, so moving on, just talking about the charging real quick. So this thing's actually got some pretty good specs. Now, yeah, I already mentioned the dual input, but as far as the specs go, it does have quite a nice voltage range, right? So 12 to 54 volts. So that's pretty decent, and that's on each, you know, on each input. And what that's going to allow you to do is basically run solar panels in series on each input, right? So they're saying here you can do actually up to 4 200-watt panels. So basically, you would take groups of two of those panels. So a 200-watt plus a 200-watt, hook them in series, and then, you know, plug it into one input, and then do the same on the other input, right? And so that's 800 watts of solar going into this thing. So that's good specs. Now the one disappointing thing about this whole setup is they are charging, you know, using the AC adapter on these inputs as well. This doesn't have like a bidirectional inverter, you know, where it would just use like a standard wall cord. All right, and then just to wrap it up real quick, here's everything that it comes with, and here's those two power bricks, right? So yeah, a little disappointing that they're still using those power bricks, but I do like the fact that they're giving you two of them, right? They're not just giving you one and then saying, you know, maybe you could buy another one separate, right? No, they're giving you both of them. So that's good. You could charge it, you know, with one if you don't care about, you know, needing a fast charge, or you can hook up both of them, right? Now the input they are using on this thing it does look like kind of more of like a proprietary connector, so that's a little disappointing. I would have liked to seen like maybe more like an XT60 connector, you know, something a little bit more common. But they do provide two of these MC4 adapter cables. But just don't lose them, you know, just don't lose them. So, but yeah, at least they include that. I'm not sure what this is. Oh, I guess this, I guess these cords go with the power bricks, okay? We do get the car adapter. And then we do get a nice bag, you know, just to basically keep all this stuff in, right? So yeah, that's the new ALLWEI 2000. And yeah, thanks for watching.